Myself, for those who don't know who I am, my name is Mark Bell. I'm the chair of the board. I can take my mask off. I'd like to officially welcome and officially start the BMIS for 2022. We have an agenda, we have items to go through. Before we get started with all of that, I'd like to just start off acknowledging the year that has gone past, acknowledging the effort that's been put in. Starting with the students, they're not present, but that's why they're all here. So acknowledging all their acknowledging also all the hard work by the school, teaching staff, leadership. We have our first year with Adrian as the director. First year as well as Catherine, acting as the head of secondary. And Eloise is the oldest veteran amongst us, but acknowledging your input and effort. Also acknowledging the effort that was being put in by the administrative staff. We have Lawrence Beery, who is our business manager. He's here. This is the first year that we've been here. Sakani as the head of accounts, and Chikondi, who manages all teachers' affairs, and there's all the support staff amongst you, acknowledging all the effort, the time that you put into the school, and helping us get our school to this point. And lastly but not least, I'd like to acknowledge all my fellow board members. They are, not all of them are here, but perhaps you could just stand up briefly to show yourself. Taz, Alfred, Gigi, and Ari, and Ramsey. And those who are not here are Ruth and Anna Jones, the secretary. To the board members, fellow board members, thank you very much for your effort and time into the proceedings of our position as the board. And on that note, I'd like to move to the agenda, which you officially have to approve before we start. So could we have a proposer to approve that and a seconder? Somebody to second it. Thank you very much. The agenda is approved. We are going to have a short session on the board, the composition of the board, and then we're going to go directly into what we call the subcommittees of the board, which are made up of the finance subcommittee, the governance subcommittee, and the facilities subcommittee. So there's three different ones. Finance subcommittee is the one which will have the longest presentation, because that's obviously an important component of the institution. But there will be, either through Adrian's presentation or through directly from the committees themselves, a number of points put forward to the AGM. We also have the director's presentation, and then the two heads of secondary and primary will provide an overview of work done this year and the year ahead. So I've done the introduction to the board members. We have, in our constitution, we have a board term, which is 3 years, and we have a number of vacancies that are coming up this year. The last cycle of directors or trustees were elected in December, so we're proposing to do the same thing for those who become vacant this year. We have we've got 4 members that are due for election. Yes. And then there are a number that will probably cycle out, transition out, and those will, as per the constitution of the school, those will be called. So that's just to keep everybody abreast of the board members. And if there are members amongst us here that are interested, there will be a process through which you can submit your application, and there is a procedure which we will be publishing closer to the time. The next agenda item is adopting the minutes from the last meeting. We circulated them. We did want to go through them word for word today during the meeting to save time. But we did circulate them on Monday, and we're wondering whether any of the members here had specific comments that they'd like to make about the agenda minutes, about the minutes of the last meeting. And if not, we would like to ask somebody to propose for us to adopt that. Proposed? And some comment?
I had a comment.
Oh, you have a comment?
I just noticed that the financial report wasn't given because it wasn't ready in time for the last meeting. So I was wondering if that could be shared, since I'm assuming since last year it's been completed.
Yeah, so the financial report is on our agenda today. It's going to be presented. It went through a number of delays, mainly for reasons due to the auditing firm, but they have finally published them, and we are going to present a summary of those, and it will be made available.
I can second that.
You can second that. Okay. So, we can proceed. Yes. So it was a very applicable comment because it's exactly where we're moving to now. So you may recall last year we had issues with irregularities in our finance department in 2020 and the year before, 2019, and we conducted a forensic audit, which was concluded, and we presented the results of those forensic audit findings in the AGM last year. And subsequently, we then engaged Deloitte to conduct a regular audit of the accounts of that year. And for various reasons, which I'm not going to dwell upon too much this evening, we encountered a lot of delays in that process. But the final report has been submitted and signed off. And these 2 slides provide you with the summary. So I'm just going to stand slightly to the side so I can read from the screen. 2019 was the previous year. That was audited by Ernst & Young. 2020 was the year that Deloitte audited. So here you can see some variances between the 2 years. Slightly higher income. These are Kwacha figures, just for those that I'm not aware of the method in which these are reported. And you can see here as well that our revenues were substantially higher that year, and that's primarily, I think, to the austerity measures that we take. If we go to the next page, also of relevance is the assets. So our assets reduced slightly, and that's because of depreciation. But what's important is our total assets were considerably higher. That's because we carried a considerable amount of cash balances. Go to the next slide. The reserves, that was something that was of quite high concern in the last discussion. So, thanks to the services that we managed to achieve, have now gone back into positive territory. So, on a reserve of 17 million last year, we've now increased those reserves to 344 million. And in terms of our obligations and liabilities, we are in a much more stable position than we were this time last year. Then we have now proceeded, having completed the 2020 audit, we now proceeded and started with the audit for 2021. We appointed a company called AMG, and they are currently not completely done with the audit, but they have been able to provide us with a draft. And they're also here today, and I'd like to call on Fatsa just briefly to give us an overview of how far you are and what the results are.
We started the audit some 2.5 weeks now. So the first 2 weeks what we've done is pretty much planning, where we get to understand the client, what are the internal controls, how are things working, why are figures moving from last year to where they are today, who does what, who authorizes what, and so on and so forth. Before we actually go digging into the evidence of the figures. We'll be given everything to try and balance, to come up with the draft audit, the draft financial statements. All going to plan, we should be finishing by the end of June. But if there's going to be anything, we've devised a plan where every Friday we'll be having a meeting with management, just so that everybody else is kept abreast of what is happening. And if there are going to be any hiccups during the audit, again, we'll let management know to say no. End of June is not going to be possible. Then again, things going to plan might be finishing earlier than planned. I don't know if it's going to be of any help if I explain the figures or. All right. Revenue has reduced from 2020-2021 from 6.9 million to 5.7 million in 2021. Again, this is due to reduced number of students during that current financial year. In terms of operating income, this includes exchange gains and so on, miscellaneous income. These are decreased again from 161 million to 154 million. Other operating gains reduced from 10.2 million to 9.3 million. Operating expenses, again, due to reduced students and reduced level of activities in the school, also reduced from 6.9 million to 5.7 million, bringing the surplus for the year for 142.8 million against 326.2 million in the prior year. We've got what's called other comprehensive income. This is to do with the evaluations that happened in the prior year have not yet been realized. They haven't changed. This is at 23.8 million. If we add the profit for the year to the other comprehensive income, the total surplus for the year is 166.7 million against 350.1 million prior year. Looking at the balance sheet, stating the cash position, liabilities and fixed assets reduced from 1.1 million to 946 million. There's going to be some heavy work on the fixed assets because so far we realized that there were figures coming from prior years which needed to be cleaned up. There's going to be another exercise which management has already organized at where every other asset is going to be labeled so that we don't have a fixed asset register, which doesn't correlate with what's in the ledgers. Current assets have reduced from 70 million to 69.8 million. Inventory is increased from 5.6 million to 148 million. Trade and other receivables have increased from 5.6 million to 148 million. That 148 million includes a figure which is pay as you earn, which was submitted to MRA era twice. So MRA is going to meet that figure. I think it's about 81 million of that figure. But otherwise, the actual trade receivables figure has increased just so to correlate with the decrease in the revenue. Remember, it was from 6 million to 5 million. Cash limits was sitting at the bank at the moment. We're on 31st of July 2021. As again decreased from 1.2 billion to 506 million in the current year. Again, this is mainly due to decreased number of students. If I go to the liabilities, the reserves are increasing from 330 to 473. Then you've got non-current liabilities, they've reduced from 979 to 383. Then the current liabilities, what was owed to suppliers and paid, was reduced from 1.3 billion to 973. If I can stop here for now until the figures are actually included. But some of those figures are going to change. They're not going to remain the same depending on what we find. If there's going to be any adjustments, we'll make all the necessary adjustments. Thank you very much.
Maybe there's questions before she sits down.
This is according to calendar year, right?
Sorry?
This is according to the calendar year?
Yes.
No, it's a financial.
Financial.
When
It's
does
a
the
financial
financial
year
year start?
1st of August is the beginning, 31st of July is
Okay, so the enrollments would be, the drop in enrollment would be strongly captured here.
That's right.
Yeah, the revenue top line, you're talking billions, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Billions, just because it's thousands.
Yes. So we just rounded up for the purposes of presentation. Yes.
I think we should share this with us. It was really hard for us to read.
Yeah, so when the audit report is complete, it will be posted on the website.
So can you go back to the figure of the exams?
So 6.9 is 5.7.
So it decreased.
Yeah.
Decrease.
It decreased because of the number of students. We went from over 700 in 2020 to just about 500 last year.
So that affected the whole exam.
Sorry?
So that affected the operating expense. So looking at that.
No, that's not expense, that's income.
No, it's not about the expense.
Also reduced from 6.9 to 5.7. So don't forget that last year we also had issues of COVID. So the levels of operations pretty much reduced for not only this sector, but for pretty much every other organization.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I'm just going to continue with basically we've got four different reports which we presented today. The two audit reports. Then the current report, which is what we call the management accounts, which is not, we haven't got the end of the year is in July. The process that we go through as the finance committee is that the administration presents us with a settlement and assist with management decisions and so on depend on what we see. So the third report is on the current one. These are not audited yet because we haven't concluded, but this will go into so these are group for projects which are the audit reports to dollars. So management accounts are done in dollars. And you can see here there's a column on the left which is our budget, what we, the budget that was approved last year, and what we've actually done now. So to the end of May, our income is pretty much on the dot to what we had budgeted, 7.9 million. We are slightly higher on our expenses on various lines, and those can we've got a number of adjustments that were made in the interim. For example, we were confronted by more students than expected in primary, so there was need to enroll a new class and a new teacher. And a number of additional costs. They are pretty much within the allowable margin for variation. So we're ending up in a situation where our expenses are pretty close to what we budgeted. So it leaves us with a surplus for May, so the year up to May, of around about $1.5 million. But those who are not part of these regular discussions, it's important to take note that we have a number of months of revenue less months ahead of us. So there's no fees in June, no fees in July, which means that bottom line will change. But the important thing for us to report here is that we have a surplus that we expect to make once again this year, which again will contribute to building up our reserves. Here I'd just like to, before we move on, and I know that I made the comment last time, I'd like to just acknowledge the effort that's been made by the accounts team here, the administration team. We've had excellent reporting, very good timekeeping. The finance committee has never had to wait for a financial report, which is something that we took upon ourselves to change from the administrative problems that took place in the past. And I think that's also what's contributed a lot to being able to provide accurate reports like these, and obviously be able to also present reports that are going to have positive results. So I'd like to acknowledge the administrative and accounting team. Well done. The next slide is budget, which we've been working on as a finance committee together with the leadership team since January also. And we kind of ended in a situation where we've come up with a number of initiatives. We are expecting numbers not to go much higher than they are this year, but we have got a number of plans which obviously the leadership team is embarked on, which are going to incur costs. We want to broaden them, and the directors obviously going to elaborate on that a little bit further. But those are going to incur more costs. And it's just like a stepping stone, because we're hoping that the numbers are going to come up again. But these are strategic discussions and strategic decisions to try and create the right base for future numbers. So this budget is perhaps higher on expenses than the one that we put through last year, but there are reasons behind it. Yeah, just put it back. Is that better? So, the columns here are what the budget. We went through a revision this year. So the variance column is to show where changes were made, and then the first blue column is what we have agreed on as a budget. So increased revenue, slight increase in numbers, but also an increase in the fee structure, which I'm going to discuss in a minute. And then our expenses will be higher as well, as I mentioned. We're broadening the structure, but we'll end in a situation, hopefully end in a situation of surplus or similar numbers that we have this year. Maybe I could ask Andrew to continue. Oh, sorry. Other revenue. So it's things like uniform sales, canteen, which is other things.
It's anything else, essentially, fundraise.
Non-fee revenue.
Non-fee.
So the virus that you showed on the previous slide, you don't foresee that for the next year. So we get a percentage virus.
Yeah, so I think we cut back heavily on those things this year. So those things are some of the things that we want to try.
Just one question about salary related benefits. You project an increase of interest and then you know pension. Those are US dollars.
These are all US dollars.
We're going to dollars.
But in the salaries,
Yeah, I mean, salaries and other things. So I'm interested to the salaries of the other benefits.
yeah, so it's driven by the number of teaching staff that we have.
Okay.
So the plan is to increase the numbers of teaching staff, and that is the main driver for those increases in the salary.
So you're projecting that we're going to go outside the country to get more teachers.
Yeah.
And hence, we have
Can you repeat the questions? We can't hear.
Yeah.
So the question is, what is the background between the increase in expenses on the line 11, which is salaries and benefits? So the answer is that we're expecting to employ or engage more teaching staff. So that's you can answer.
Yeah, staffing costs are always going to go up. Even if there's no salary increment from each year, the fact is that teachers will go through a step increase. So the staffing costs are always going to go up. So we have the step increase, which is part of the contractual thing. If we employ any additional staff, that is also taking into account an increase. And this number also reflects actual cost of salaries. In the previous budget, there was staff tuition costs for their children wasn't taken into showing in the last budget, and that's now been included so that we can actually get a feel for the actual cost in terms of salaries and benefits.
How many teachers you just going to accommodate how many staff? Or you going to accommodate
We're essentially adding just a couple. We've employed for next year an aquatics director, which we really didn't have this year. We had a swimming coach for a part-time. We also have a student services coordinator who's coming in following the audit, the inclusion audit from the Office of Overseas Schools, which they supported us, and that person's coming in. We do get some support from the Office of Overseas Schools, but it's also a cost to us. So there is a real cost.
So, sorry, if I ask a question that's in the cover, just let me know, please. The follow-up question was mentioning, are all the teachers going to be international recruit? Hence, we projecting over $1 million. And are we also including housing as part of that expense, or that's something that's going to be covered later? So we just mentioned 2 non-academic teachers, which I assume if we put them outside the country, then that we have to, cover all say the teachers that are academic teachers. And again, this is going to be later on. Feel free to say, we'll cover it.
Yeah, we do employ teachers from overseas. We also employ teachers from Malawi, and we also employ expatriate teachers who are actually resident in Malawi. So we have 2 types of contract. One is an international contract, one is a local contract, and of course they have different benefits. The overseas one is also more expensive, and we try to balance people that come in between the 2. Depends on who's available and who's good.
Yeah, just a quick one. Since we are talking about salaries and staffing, earlier this year or last month, there was a bit of a disruption with support staff. What are your permutations in terms of mitigating as you are planning ahead, given the economic dynamics that have changed in the country? Mitigate such.
Right, so there's 2 things. That disruption, which was essentially about salaries, there's 2 things. One is that we are going to spend the next month looking at contracts, salaries, and other benefits for support and operational staff, because that was one of the things that they were requesting. It's one of the things that we actually were planning to do in any case. The second thing is that we review salaries in August every year, because it depends on student numbers, it depends on income. Good. I'll move to the next slide, which are the income drivers. Where does the income come from? Now, these numbers indicate the spread between primary, middle, and high school. We've got taxpayer tuition, non-taxpayer tuition, which is different. And you'll see there that this is based on a total of 540 students. Now, we currently, in this year, have 535 thereabouts. And so this is a conservative projection of the number of students that we expect to have next year. We won't know the number of students until we get to basically July, in August, and in which case at that time we will do a revision of the budget and actually have numbers. You'll also see there that I've included staff children. So in the school, I'm projecting that we're going to have 583 students in total. And I've also added the grants that we are expecting from the Office of Overseas Schools. Next slide refers to expenditure. How do we spend our money? You'll see there, and once again, I'll repeat, this presentation is going to be put on the website, so I'm not going to speak to everything that's there. You'll be able to read it in great detail later. So you can see the staff costs teacher costs, support staff costs, operational staff costs, educational costs, and operational costs. In other words, what does it cost to run the school? You'll see that the staff costs are around about 77.2%. This is a good indicator for us. It tells us, relative to the number of students that we have, are our staffing costs high, middle, or low? That number indicates that it's slightly high. It should actually be more around about 75% mark. Educational costs 3.3%. Right, once again, relative to the income, that's probably slightly low. It should be somewhere between 4 and 5%. And the operational costs, you know, the water, the electricity, the fuel, everything else, is 15.3%. That's sort of slightly on the high side. These are good indicators for us because as we move forward, these balances will be adjusted so that we know that we'll be in a position that we're spending the right amount of money staffing-wise relative to our income. In total, that's about 95.8% of our income. So that means there's about 5% that we should be producing as a surplus, and that's about right. So these are good numbers for us to get an idea of where we are. Resolutions of the finance committee.
You go ahead.
I want to go through the decisions that have been made. It's already been mentioned that our tuition costs are going to be slightly different this year. There's going to be a 5% tuition increase across the board. Why? For a number of reasons. We have a lot of costs that we pay in US dollars. The current inflation rate is 4.3%, just for this 4 months, 5 months of 2022. So there's inflationary costs there. We all know that there's inflation in Malawi, especially now, with the devaluation of the kwacha, and that affects a number of things for us. It's going to affect fuel, it's water expenses, it's rents, you know, all those things. Again, there's going to be pressure to increase. Increased staffing costs. Basically 19% increase in staffing costs since the budget that was approved a year ago. Right, and once again, as I mentioned, it's got to do with step increases, salary increments. We had, for the support and operational staff, had significant salary increases since this budget last year. And of course, staffing numbers, which was mentioned before. As I just said, there was a 20% increase in salary for non-teaching staff during the course of 2021. So that's quite significant. And there hasn't been any tuition increases for several years. So our costs are going up, staffing costs are going up, and so we have to increase our income. We are going to be introducing a capital fund. This will be a yearly cost. For new students, this will be $600, and for returning students, this will be $100 per year. Why are we doing this? Because clearly campus needs, capital work. There are projects that we have planned that we need to fund, and so this is going to go towards those funds. For other changes to tuition, tuition is now going to be paid in advance rather than arrears. So instead of paying for June, and we're introducing a 2% per month late payment fee for the late payment of tuition. Good. That's the only finance.
you were mentioning this expense line on the side. This is like on the low side, what's your frame of reference for those?
Those indicators.
Yeah.
I'm making comparison for schools internationally around the world. So schools like us.
Okay, there is a standard.
This is a standard, yes.
My second question is you've shown some surpluses in years where what's the goal? What's the desired surplus for a school like this to be able to operate?
Yeah, I think an indicator would be around about 5%.
For a year.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what's also important to know is that as an institution, we have to use our own cash reserves to keep the institution running. We can't borrow. So we have to use our own reserves to cover our costs. Whether, in particular, I can mention there's a number of months in the year that we don't have income. So we need to have sufficient reserves to keep on paying the recurring expenses during those months. So as an institution, it's important to have, as a policy, to keep an amount in cash in reserve to be able to cover those.
Yeah, I can see that. It seems quite on the low side in my opinion. That's why I was asking. And the last thing is, if you know ahead of time that it's going to be step increase, you have your salary schemes, right? So is the budget up if that's a surprise at the end of the year?
Those step increases are taken into account in terms of our costs. So it's part of the budget.
We're looking ahead to next year, not this current.
So the budget adjustment is not to take into account.
We're adjusting the numbers.
Yeah, sorry, just out of interest on the invoicing, do we have any reason why the institution would pay in advance and not in arrears? Is it a cash flow issue or what's the reason for that change?
Yeah, I think cash flow is one of those issues, but I think it's also a case of and this is pretty standard practice, paying for a service not after it's delivered, right, but rather before it's delivered. That brings us to school reports. Begin by just formally thank you for coming. I appreciate the time.
Sorry, another question on the budget. Just one question. You said about the reserve, we need to cover for those months without revenues.
Yeah.
Several students pay the full year in advance. So I'm not fully getting those months without revenues because you actually collect a lot of revenues in advance. So that doesn't seem to be a major issue.
I think the point about that, if I just go back to that, you'll see there at the moment it's showing to May a surplus of 1.5 million. There's no more tuition coming in. There are 2 months of salaries going to go out, and so that number is going to decrease. So it's predictable, but it means that we're not going to have a surplus of 1.5 million. We're going to have a surplus that's going to be lower than that.
Okay. Doesn't seem to be a major issue. Is that okay?
No, it's just an explanation of cash flow. Cash flow will decrease simply because we have nothing coming in, but we do have expenses coming in.
So when you say cash flow will decrease, it assumes that the school fees are not paid for those 2 months. In this case, we know the school fees are paid for the entire year, whether it's paid monthly or it's paid one time. And I think that's where it's confusing a little bit because you already receive school fees money, but then your OPE expense should also increase what you don't have in students in school. So I think the way that it's being presented as a way to put the case for my end is very confusing. You know you receive the money, but you might not have received at that particular month. You might have received 2 or 3 months before, or you know what I'm saying? So when you say getting cash flow and then present that as an issue, it sort of brings a little bit of challenge.
I don't think it's being presented as an issue. I'm just trying to explain that this is an interim management, set of management plans. That's not the end of the year. That's what I'm saying. We're in the middle of the year.
But when you say there's no impact coming in,
It means that that figure of the surplus there is not going to be the end of the year. So that's what I was saying.
About the need to increase the capital.
Yes.
Can you give us an idea how much of the profits that you generate every year goes into reserves as a good practice, and how much goes into capital or maintenance or whatever? And so to justify the need to introduce a capital fee for those costs that cannot be covered out of the profit.
So at this stage, we have we don't have a policy in terms of how a percentage or the number of the proportion of the surplus that will be put into capital expenditure. It's more based on what we can afford, and as we said, in terms of liquidity. But the idea of creating a capital fund is, first of all, if we create a policy of if we exceed a surplus of X amount, the balance will go to the capital fund, and that will be used for capital funds. But at the same time, we'd like to create the capital fund contribution, particularly for new students coming in, to try and build that capital fund up to be able to cover the cost of our proposed projects. The other important thing is that we do have the capital fund, and if there is a policy around it, and if there are resources in it, we can use it as leverage to try and attract other funding. Adrian mentioned grants. There are grants available for institutions like this to apply for capital projects. But it's much more attractive for somebody to give a grant if they can see that you've got your own contribution. So that's kind of the thinking behind it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So then we'll be presenting what we have in the capital as a separate line item. So what's been spent, what's been received, and what the balance is.
Right, so formally thank you for coming. I also like to formally thank my team for the hard work they do, the teaching staff, and of course the board of trustees. It's a team effort. We all work together. And I'm going to repeat that all of this is going to be on the website because there's a lot of writing in this and I'm not going to go through the whole thing. This started with student numbers. We started in August with 580 students, 359 taxpayers, 78 non-taxpayers, and 43 staff. That varies throughout the year. It goes down, right, and leave, come. At May, we had 578 students, so it's been pretty consistent throughout the year. Next year, the proportion of taxpayers and non-taxpayers is an unknown. And so in the development of the budget for next year, there are certain assumptions that are made, which is that the proportion of students is pretty much going to be the same next year as this year. And it remains to be seen whether that's the case. In terms of human resources, we've got 7 primary teachers leaving at the end of this year. They're ending their contracts, or they've finished their contracts and they're moving on. So we've employed 7 new primary teaching staff. I mentioned the fact that we did have a swimming coach who came in to start the year. We employed a swimming coach for the season in October, but we've employed an aquatics director in this year from the 1st of August. New communications officer was appointed in January. New HR manager has recently been appointed in May. And of course, we've got a new secondary principal who's been appointed, who's Leslie Peacock, and she will be coming in on the 1st of August next year. Thank you, Catherine. COVID I want to briefly mention this. We were very fortunate to be able to start the year face to face. I think that was something that everyone was looking forward to and hoping. And you will notice that we've put in protocols and that we've been changing the protocols on a regular basis, reflecting what's happening in our context, the numbers, whether there's a spike in cases, whether there's a reduction. Of course, we have changed our mask wearing, we've changed our bubbles, we have introduced ECPs. I hope that next year this will build up even greater to pre-COVID levels. In school competitions, we've got events in school. It's kind of becoming a bit normal, and this is the normal that we want. We want, I think, kind of think that we're going to be living with COVID, and we're going to be doing everything that we can to have a normal school community. The yearbook this year has been renamed Together Again, because that's what's happening, Together Again. But of course, we will keep monitoring COVID, going into the end of the year, and also going into the year. College admissions. Significant here is that we've got 86% of U30s have been offered a place. 100% of people who had an offer has been in their top 3 choices, and 42% got their first choice, which is very good. And they've earned over $230,000 in scholarship. So, if you were at the graduation, you will have heard where people were going. They've done very well, and we're very pleased with them and how successful they've been. There was mention of the board subcommittees. Yes. Things we're all about. The board operates through subcommittees. We have a full board, and each of the board members is on a subcommittee, and a lot of the work is done through these subcommittees. So what have the subcommittees been doing? So here's a sort of a short list of things that they do. This is not everything. This is just an example of what they do. For instance, the Government's Policy and Personnel Committee, whose role it is to look at policy. They created a HR ad hoc committee. We've been starting to work on the Policy and Procedures Handbook, which is enormous. It's 367 pages. We're trying to break that down, and we're going to do a systematic review of all the major sections one by one. We've looked at the refundable deposit policy, which was an issue that was discussed in last year's meeting. That's been completed. And we're going to be looking at finance, staffing, school edits goals, and school board operations. Those are the policies that we're planning on starting on first. There are basically 8 sections of this very large book, and they all need review. The last time there was a review of the policy manual was in 2018. We have the Facilities, Health and Safety Committee. This is the grounds and what we do. And there's a lot of work that we're trying to do with the grounds. We've been reorganising the storage, the spaces. We've been cleaning up areas. We've got a composting program now, which is giving us, which has been really successful. We've got a recycling program now, garden beautification program, and we're looking at irrigation planning. We have bore water here, but we're using town water. We're going to look at a way to use more of our bore water, which is going to be cost saving to the school and enable us to irrigate all the sections of the school throughout the year. The Finance Committee, you can see we've been very busy. The Finance Committee meets every month. They've got a lot to do. I think what I would like to highlight about the Finance Committee is that we really spent a lot of time developing our financial reporting so that it's clear and unambiguous and it's regular, and so we're keeping a very close eye on the finances, which is so important. And they do audits of the budget. There's a number missing here. This is the academic committee. This is not a standing committee. This is one that was created this year. Some of the things the academic committee has worked on: BMIS mission, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. A review of the extracurricular programs. We're going to be developing an educational support policy, and that's pending. We're going through some transition there, so the same with the language policy, and that's slated for next year. We have now finalised our safeguarding and child protection procedures, which is really important. We need to review the school's admissions policy. What I'm very pleased about, which you'll hear in a little while, is the fact that we've revised high school. Sorry? Yes. What does that mean?
Yeah. What is the language policy?
What is a language policy? It's how we deal with languages in school. What do we offer?
Okay,
second languages. First language and second languages. But essentially we need to be looking at the languages that we offer in school. Should we be offering different ones, new ones? Human Resources Committee, once again, this is an ad hoc committee, so it's not a standing committee. It has been created for this year. We have dealt with local staff salaries. They will get paid in US dollar or the kwacha. We've worked on an MOU with the union, done training of the Workers Committee. We've changed, we've developed the organisational chart, which I'm going to talk a little bit about later. The HR manager has been recruited. We're in the process now looking at staff contracts, salary scales, all those things, getting consistency what we're doing. And part of that is streamlining, administration. Other developments. It's not everything that we've done. I came into the school. One of the things I've tried to work on throughout the year is getting systems in place. And I think that COVID, the 2 years of COVID, sort of changed the way that the school operated. We need systems. We need systems in the school so that we have an effective and efficient organisation. We've put in we've done board training, a lot of board training. We've developed a new procurement policy and procedures, so we can keep a close watch on where we're spending and how we're spending. And over the coming break, we're going to be developing our procurement procedures even further. We've now got a maintenance management system so that we can keep track of maintenance and keep track of systems and try to manage it. We now plan projects ahead of time rather than just do them. We're planning them. We have a long-term view. We prioritise. We get costings. We make decisions about what projects we're going to do based on the budget. So we have a system in place. We've looked at the stock inventory system. They're very important. Asset management system, that's something that needs to be developed. IT infrastructure upgrade. This is something that's we've put optical fibre backbone throughout the entire school. It's going to make a huge difference for the school in terms of its IT capacity, how we're going to use it, and it's going to future-proof the school in terms of its IT needs for the next 6 times. And we're at the process of introducing an integrated software system, which is going to link admissions to finance to everything in the school. It's going to be one system which you put one piece of data in and it goes everywhere. And that's how we need to operate the school. That's it for me for now. I'm going to ask Eloise to come and we're going to move the program.
Hello, everybody. I don't know what you're feeling, but I'm pretty cold, so I hope that coffee tea will warm me up and will warm you guys too. All right, I'm going to talk about learning, community, integrity. Is that better? It's my spine too. All right, let's just go to the next slide. I'm going to start talking about learning. So in primary school, I think we had a really successful year. We were very excited this year about reviewing our math curriculum. I'm actually going to talk about this next slide. Okay, thank you. We're very excited to talk reviewing our math curriculum. I know this was a very hot topic in all the previous years, and we took all the feedback in that we received from parents, but also looking at our data, our assessment, where our students were. And what we noticed is that we had a math curriculum, but it wasn't properly aligned. So what we looked is about aligning the curriculum according to the BMIS open sequence and the Common Core standards in the US. So we wanted like a rigorous math curriculum that is internationally recognized and that will just raise the abilities of our students. So that's what we did. We had curriculum coordinators this year and worked an entire year on reviewing that curriculum, and we have now an aligned and strong curriculum. That is just the beginning, because now that you have a document, you need to implement it. And we spent all year, all teachers have been doing a training, a math training on how to teach math conceptually based on newest math research and brain research. And with that training now, we feel like we have the training, we have the curriculum, now we are going to put it into practice. So next year, in August, we're going to start putting it into practice. Reviewing how it goes. We keep a curriculum leader, so we're going to continue looking at math and seeing, recording assessment data, and then see, do we need to make any improvements? Does it change? Do we see a change in students' abilities? So I'm very excited about that. The assessment practice goes hand in hand. I think we made a really big, last year at the AGM, if you were there, I know I talked about assessment. There was a recommendation we had in our last visit where the IB said you really need to look at your assessment practice. So we really did this. We do a beginning and end of year assessment in math, and then in reading, writing, those three, and we record the data and track it. And it's really interesting to see now that we did it for a year and a half. You can see, which year levels are meeting expectations, where do we have gaps, why is that? We look into teaching, has it something to do with our methods, does it have something to do with the curriculum, and it just allows us to really look into our teaching practice and see what do we have to change. We do math testing, which is really helpful too. It's just one of the assessments we're using to just see like in which areas do we have, are we strong, which areas do we have to review and reflect on. And then a big change this year was really with our new counselor, Ms. Enrika Henderson. We brought in something called compassionate discipline, which is really an approach where instead of dealing with students who have problems and like, oh, here we have a fire here and we have a fire here, it's more about like teaching strategies to deal with those challenges. And it's the students, if a student, for example, misbehaves in one way or another, the answer is not like, this is what you did, here's your consequence, but it's more about looking like, why did the student behave this way? What triggered the student's behavior? And really understanding and studying behavior, and then come up with solutions. It's going into the classrooms and teaching teachers strategies for dealing with student behaviors in a constructive manner, but also putting that responsibility on the students. And it has, so far, I think we've seen some really great improvements, and we're excited to continue that next year. All right. Community, I know I always talk about the triangle of parents and teachers and students being really important. I know this year we were excited to bring parents back onto campus. In primary school, we were lucky to have class reps in every classroom. We had a few meetings, the class was really engaged in a few events that we planned in primary school, which was really nice. definitely something we want to improve next year and reinforce. But it's really nice. And I know teachers are working hard, like sending weekly communications to parents, parents being on Seesaw, just making sure like we're all working together to support the students. Jam was a big project in primary school this year. We had to tear it down because it was eaten by termites. And then what happened? And students in Stuco were very excited about like, we're going to make a plan. It started with a walkathon in November where students raised 5 million project. But then we needed a little bit more because what we looked at the company that we used for the Jam at the lower primary playground. Because that's good quality. We have it now for many years. It's still standing. We're going to go with them. Stuco students looked at different gyms and they chose one. And then we had like an idea of like, okay, we need this much money and how are we going to raise it? So we're really excited. We raised like 11,695 watches thanks to students, but parents who just came to Moonlight, pizza, supported bake sales, and did all those amazing activities. The gym is ordered, worked really closely with Sekani. We got excited for all those things like the transfer is through and we don't have to do this. So if everything goes well, in August when we start, we have a new gym, and not only this, but we'll also have 2 new swing sets. So it's the beginning of improving the play structures for the kids, and hopefully just the beginning, and then we can see what else we'll do. And then just culture of kindness, I know that's a big thing, but we are really reinforcing it. We talk about kindness all the time. It's in everything that we do in primary, and I think it's really now rooted in the children. They understand that this is our main value. You know, when there are conflicts, we talk about like, what do we value? It's kindness. What does it look like? So it's not just like some words on the wall. It's something that we really want to model. It's something that we reflect and really live. Right. So this year we have been working really hard in trying to train our teaching assistants. So there are obviously a lot of our teaching assistants are trained Malawian teachers, which is wonderful. Some teaching assistants have been here for a long time, come with a lot of experience. They're very passionate and they want to learn more. So at the beginning of the year, we asked teaching assistants, what areas do you actually want to improve in? What interests you? And based on that, we then came up with a little bit of a professional development plan. They had sessions with Edmika on behavioral management. How do we deal with student behaviors? They had sessions on Seesaw, so they could support students in the classroom. They did a mass PD, which they started last week and in this week. And then this was the first year where we had teaching assistants actually supporting our PYP exhibition students in year 6. And it's doing all those little things to empower them and make them really feeling part of the team. And that is a big focus for next year, just investing more in our teaching assistants. Because the more they know, the better they can support our students. And then as I said before, teachers did the mass PD. Then the 3 R's was a new thing we did this year. I think, you know, when you have all the behavioral guidelines or essential agreements, nobody can remember 10 different agreements. So we came up with the 3 R's, which are easy to remember. And then we introduced that. The students had an assembly about the 3 R's where we discussed what this was. They had a poster competition where we had winners, and those posters now are going to be printed and put around school. And that's what we live. So we're kind and we're respectful. And I think those are 2 agreements that students can really remember. And then internet safety, that was really nice. And I think we always knew, we talked about internet safety a little bit. You know, we introduced students into like, oh, when you're going to use laptops or iPads, make sure here's what you need to know. We had 1 unit in year 5, which really focuses on digital citizenship. But then we really didn't do enough. And I think this year especially, a lot of parents spoke up and be like, you know, I have these issues at home, I see this, there's issues on WhatsApp, and we then decided we're going to focus on internet safety as much as we can this year, but then actually design a program for next year where this is going to be our focus. So this year it started with a lot of input. Elmika led 3 parent workshops on internet safety, and she also started lessons in the classroom. But next year we're going to start our year with internet safety in the classroom with parents, so we're all on the same page. And last one,
It's about, individuals and creativity and leadership in the school. So our Stuco students have been really active this year. So student council in year 5 and 6 have worked really closely with a few teachers to plan for special events, dress-up days, bake sale, pizza, all those things where they have a say. But the nicest thing about Stuco is that when they come into my office and they say, Miss Ellen, we have an idea, and here's what we want to do, and they really feel like they own the school. And I think that's just wonderful to see, and it's something we really want to reinforce. We expanded our ECP activities. I know Adrian talked about this a little bit, but at the very beginning, if you remember when we started, we had like 3 ECP activities to choose from at the very beginning, and at the end now we have in general 51 activities for students to choose from year 1 to year 6. And I think that's thankfully because of teachers who are passionate about different things, but also we got a lot of outside providers in who are offering activities, and that is something we want to continue next year. And Adrian mentioned already the sporting events. We have a group of students going down to Lentire tomorrow for cross country, which is a big deal, and then athletics on Friday and Saturdays. And this is just one thing. We participate in so many different tournaments and galas, and I think it raises a real excitement in our students and families. And if you have time, next Thursday we're going to recognize all of our athletes and amazing sporty students in our assembly. So if you can make time to celebrate them, please do. I think I'm done.
That wasn't 5 minutes. Okay. So I'll just give you an overview of what's been happening in secondary. So in the MYP and DP, our curriculum review is actually dictated by the IB. So it comes in a cycle of mission, a curriculum review cycle, and we update in line with that. So the arts department, they actually have a new guide starting in 2022, and in August, and also for the DB theatre. So our arts department have been working on aligning our curriculum to the standards that the IB have dictated. We have music for the first time this year since COVID, which has been absolutely fantastic, and Dave Montreux has done an incredible job with performances and elevating music within the school. It's a real passion for our students again. And another plug, if you are about tomorrow night, we've got our singers night down in the lower hall, but also our NYP Arts exhibition, so please do come along and enjoy that. And you would have noticed that we've got a lot more community performances as well. So it's raising the profile of the Shipping and Ziki in our community. Students have been performing at different events, including Army Park. They were at the Farmers Market a couple of weekends ago. So really just trying to, think about the marketing and the profile of the school as well, which has been really fantastic. Our student bands have also been employed to work at particular events because of this as well. So it's really great for the students. In mathematics, we had new DP and MYP curriculum, which was rolled out this year, so they've been focusing on tweaking and refining the curriculum in response to that. Our English department had an excellent initiative this year, which is our independent reading program. They've carefully curated a range of books across the year levels that students have been reading throughout the year. Honestly, I have seen students who never had a passion for reading, sitting around and reading during their lunch times, devouring books. It's a fantastic initiative, which we're just going to build on next year. Purchasing more books for the library for students to be able to read and engage with. Design department has had a very strong focus on digital design due to COVID, so we're very excited next year that we will be opening a workshop again. We'll be able to bring staff over again, so that we have supervision within the workshop, so the kids will be practical, getting their hands dirty again, which is fantastic. In the same with sciences, there's been a real strong focus on the practical skills because during COVID we didn't have the opportunity to conduct the labs like we used to. And they've also been reviewing and updating their assessment tasks. In PE, we have a new DP subject next year. It is for exercise and health science, so the PE department have been focusing on preparing for that. It's the first rollout. Also a very exciting addition because what we're doing is opening up opportunities for students, but it's also retaining students. Because we are giving, different options in the DP where students may have left or felt like they weren't succeeding. So that's really important. They've also been reviewing their curriculum and aligning it across the Language B, French, Spanish, and English. They had a new curriculum subject guide which was published and started August last year. So they've been looking at the expectations and skills within each of the phases, which we have the ability to dictate and control in line with the new subject guide. In humanities, they've been focusing very closely on standardization practices and also becoming more cohesive in their curriculum and have identified 4 themes that which will be reflected across the curriculum. And our educational support department have been focusing on collaborative meetings between secondary and primary, so strengthening that collaboration there. Also focusing on IEPs for our students and working with the educational psychologist in order to determine students' needs. And then working with the teachers to ensure that the strategies they recommend in years, so that's an option for students to take. We now have our career skills program, so students who have a very clear and direct career path, for example, artists, sporting path, they can use time within the program, dedicated time to develop skills within those areas that are going to make them more desirable in university applications when they're leaving school. They prepare for portfolios, that kind of thing. We are also offering high school diploma courses. So we have our IB courses that run assessed against the full IB criteria for students and examinations, but we've been looking at a program where it is the version of those courses for our students that's accessible for the students who aren't able to engage in the full IB diploma and those courses as they are offered by the We've also been reviewing our graduation requirements. When I sent out this email a couple of weeks ago, I did have some queries from parents. There was concern shared, are we lowering the bar? Are we reducing our expectations? And what's actually interesting is that we're not. Actually still have a higher bar and a lot of international schools. So I think one school that people are often very familiar with is UWC. They have a very, very exceptional reputation worldwide. UWC, their high school diploma requirements require students to gain a 2 in a subject to get a credit. We were saying in the MYP that they had to get a 4 for a full credit and a 3 in the diploma. We have not moved that 3 from the diploma, we've moved to the 3 in the MYP, and we are still above what UWC dictates in our high school diploma. So I think that's, for people to understand, I think that's a very good benchmark. If you're not aware of who UWC is, Google them. Worldwide Exceptional International Schools, and that's their benchmark. So we are above them. So we are maintaining our standards. We are just aligning with the international community. We did this in consultation with NIAS, who's one of our accrediting bodies, so it is a conversation that we engaged with them, and we've conducted really thorough research throughout the year in order to determine our new high school diploma requirements. Our community, one of the really great things this year, we love being recognised, and our students are being recognised on, an international platform. Within the region, ASA is a very big organisation that we're a part of, and for the last 2 years, our students have received the Excellence Award. Only one award is awarded to students in ASA schools, and we have got it for the last 2 years running. So Faith Moses is a student who received it this year, and it's because of her commitment to service and also aligning with ASA's values. So we are actually quite prominent within ASA at the moment with regards to our service opportunities that we provide to students. Ashley Diza, who's our service coordinator, she's been working with ASA, she's been partnering with them, she's been invited to speak at workshops, and she's actually just been recently invited to contribute to a publication as well, looking at reciprocity in service. So we are really leading and trailblazing with regards to service in the school, which is fantastic. We also received the 2nd place for an Extra Service Project Award, which came with a $2,500 scholarship as well, which is fantastic. We've also got students in all year levels, so that's kind of focusing on the diploma, but we've rolled out service again in years 7 to 11, which is really exciting, really fantastic. But the best part about service is that our students are leading it. It's giving them leadership opportunities, they're really driving it forward, they're looking for engaging in the service learning cycle properly and really having a look at where is the need and what can I do. to provide a service and offer a service. We've been focusing on being a safe community this year as well. We've introduced the family model of well-being. If you're a secondary parent, you would have seen management updates on a weekly basis. Our secondary counsellor, Mariella, who's also a trained psychologist, has brought in a wealth of experience, knowledge and understanding, which has really moved us forward in this area. Lots of professional development going on within the curriculum, NYP and DP. Every time there's a new subject guide, we send at least one staff member on a professional development so that they understand the new subject guide and the expectations. We've had a teacher who joined PT on inclusion, an inquiry educator summit, role of librarian, college counselling. So we're always ongoing and updating the skills understanding. There's been a renewed focus on the BYP to NYP transition. We brought in the next academic year, so looking ahead, some really great changes to help support that transition and make it a little bit more of a soft landing for our students, because we know that it's been difficult in the past. We've also been reviewing the student support coordinator and their role. It has historically been a role for 2 people, and we're looking at bringing that together possibly into one role. That's to be determined in the coming weeks. We are also looking to introduce PASS, which is a piece of software that looks at students' attitude to self in the school. So it's an external software where we can monitor throughout the year how students are feeling and their well-being and Stuco. Lots of opportunities for Stuco this year. Honestly, they've done an incredible job. Absolutely incredible. They've come back, assemblies, discos, festival, Valentine's Day, leaders assemblies, teacher appreciation. They finish one thing, they turn their attention to another, and it is so student driven. It really is. They come up with the ideas, they come to me, talk to me about it, and I say, yes, how can we do that? Can we support you? So it is phenomenal that our students have so many leadership opportunities throughout the school year, and in so many ways to show their leadership skills. So all of your children have that chance to develop that. And we've also been very pleased, just like primary, to have so many sporting events this year. We're really developing a sense of community with schools within the Longway as well. We had a really fun ABC swim gala, which is nice to see. And we've had a huge amount of fixtures, and that is through the efforts of the teachers as well. So it's not just, we have our sports coordinator now, we have our PE department, but we've also had really proactive teachers who said, let me know, let me talk to people I know, let me get out into the community, let me create these opportunities for our students. So I think it's really been a theme of opportunities this year, and it was really lovely to hear Rose Pickard speak in her graduation salutatorian speech about the opportunities that she's been given in Bishop Mackenzie, and it's something that we are continuing to build on. Thank you.
Right, some things that are coming up. We did have the PTA this year. They're going to be reinvigorating that organisation next year. Obviously, COVID had a lot to do with that and people leaving. But we want PTA to be back in the school. It's a very important organisation that involves parents and involves teachers. And so what we're going to do is that we're going to, next year, in the first 4 weeks, go through the process of electing a new PTA. We first start off with distributing PTA materials to the community so that everybody knows the role of PTA, the responsibilities of PTA, and how they can get involved. We'll call nominations in August, and then we'll hold elections. And so we can have a PTA active again, which I think is going to be terrific. Restructuring of the school organisation, yes.
So I have a question on the PTA.
Sorry?
I have a question about the PTA.
Sure.
I downloaded from the website the Architects Association, where there is no mention about the PTA, but there is a mention about parents association and the role of the parents.
parent association, and you're part of it because you're here. Every parent of the school is part of the parent association, and they have a vote for the board association. They have a vote as being part of the AGM. Every parent is part of the parent association. The PTA is a different body, which is members come from the parent association, 10 to 14 parents, and the role of the PTA is kind of a fundraising role, but also a communication role. So they're quite different roles.
So when I ask a question on the parent association, is the article of association is mentioned that there should be no fewer than 3 meetings of the parents association each year, and then describe which are the roles and responsibilities of the parent association within the board and the school management. So I want to know if it was my first year at BMIS this year, and I never heard about the parent association. I was never invited to one of these 3 meetings. Where these meetings take place?
This is actually the first meeting of the parent association.
Sorry?
This is actually the first meeting of the parent association. This is the AGM, and we're going to have another meeting next year when we start board elections.
So this is a meeting of the parent association?
Yes, because you are a member of the parent association.
I'm very confused, and I don't think
So the parent association, automatically every single person that has a child here is a member of the parent association. The parent association nominate and elect board members, voluntary board members, to represent them on the board of trustees that govern the proceedings of the school. Yeah. So then, as if a board member, if a person becomes a board member, he or she takes on obligations which are related to the proceedings of the school. So it's upon the parent association and the board of trustees and management to coordinate additional meetings as and when they're required. So indeed the Constitution says we should have 3 meetings a year, but as you see the attendance to such meetings may not be so good. So in the past, it's never really taken much traction. We tended to concentrate on annual general meeting as the main parent association, which is this one. What the director is referring to is the parent teacher association, which is kind of a parallel body, which is more of an active activity-based committee rather than the parent association, which looks through the board of trustees, looks at the proceedings of the school itself, operating the operations and the proceedings. Okay.
We are making some changes to the school structure next year. We are, and this is as a result. Earlier in the year, you'll be aware that we did an inclusion audit, which was sponsored by the Office of Overseas Schools. We had Linda Cargate meet with the community, the teachers, the parents, and she came out with a report and made some recommendations. One of those recommendations was to create a student services department. The idea of a student services department is to coordinate all the student support services in the school. So we're talking about language support, we're talking about learning support, we're talking about counselling, we're talking about college counselling, we're talking about the medical services, anything that supports students. And the idea is to have a whole school approach. So there is continuity as children move through the school from one area of the school to the next area of the school, that we have all the policies and procedures in place, that we increase and improve the learning support services that we offer to children, so that students who are either need support with language or with other areas, we are able to coordinate. And so it's just a way of making sure that the school is working in an effective manner. And And so in the lead up to that, we have appointed a student services coordinator who, and this is actually a task that she is actually going to be doing. But the idea is that we're going to take a whole school approach. In the past, we've had primary working on needs there, we've had secondary working needs there. This year, there's been a lot more coordination between primary and secondary, and this is going to take it to the next level. And so that's going to be a significant change for the school, and it's going to be about students much more supported in a coordinated fashion. The BMIS mission. This has been a long-standing project throughout this entire year, which started way back in October, and it's taken us to this particular point. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to review the mission statement of the school. The mission statement is really a statement about who are we, what we're trying to do, and how does that affect the decision making of the school. Because the mission is why we're here, and it is the reason why we make decisions, whether it be about policy decisions, whether it be about student decisions, whether it be about anything in the school. It's got to reflect the mission. It's got to be in tune with who we say we are and what we're trying to do. And the mission guides the strategy of the school. So it's a really important document, and it's a document that needs to be understood by everybody and known by everybody. And we do have a mission, the old mission somewhere on various places around the school, and it's quite a long document, and therefore people are not really familiar with it. So we decided to embark upon this process of reviewing what we were doing, and we basically went through a process where we put together a group, which was the mission guiding committee. We sat down, we talked about what is the mission about, what we're trying to do, what does the community think of the mission, what does the community think about the school, what does the community understand about the school. And we went through this process where we asked feedback from the community, and you will have done surveys, and we sent our surveys to the parents, we met with the teachers, we met with the students, and we basically asked them, how do you describe the school? How do you see it in 5 years' time? What do you think is going to change? What's the community proud about the school? What are they proud of? And so the committee was really trying to answer 4 questions. What makes this school special? What makes it different from every other international school? What is so important about the school? What does that actually do well? What actually can we be doing better? And we were looking for themes. And we collected lots and lots of data. In fact, we got over 2,000 data points from the community. And from that, we were able to identify from the community, and I mean the entire community, key themes and key words kept on jumping out at us. For instance, community was one of the big themes of this community. We see ourselves as a community, and that means it's not just the students, but the community involves everybody. It means it involves the parents, it involves the alumni, it involves the teachers. So community was a very key point. We also see ourselves as diverse, and it's not just, we do have something like 60 different nationalities, but our diversity is on a number of different levels. It's not just nationalities, and so we should be recognising that in the way that we do things. So it's got to do with our hiring practices to ensure that we maintain our diversity. Our diversity should be reflected in our curriculum content. We should not just concentrate on one area. We should celebrate and accept and promote our diversity. People call the school welcoming. People feel welcome coming here. We see that as a really important feature of what we're trying to do on a day-to-day basis. We welcome people to the community. People also understand that this is a joyful place. Children like to be here. They like to come to school. I know that many of you as parents like to be able to come to the school. You know, it's a happy place. It's a place where there's joy. Well-being has been a bringing of students, but also the well-being of teachers, the well-being of parents is something that we need to be concentrating on and proactively promoting. But everything that we need to do has to be sustainable. So we, for instance, any programs that we have in place, need to be sustainable. We don't want to do one-off things. We want things that are going to take us into the future. We need to be financially sustainable, so that we know that school, which has been around for almost 80 years, is going to be around in another 80 years. Everything we need to be doing is sustainable. We have been doing a very big push on environmental sustainability this year. It's part of who we are. It's really important. We also believe, and the community believes, that we should be inclusive. Academic inclusivity. We've heard about some of the initiatives that are being put into place next year to ensure that there are different pathways for students as they move through the school, and that we are giving them opportunities as they move into year 13. We want to be inclusive, but we want to be inclusive not just academically, we want to be inclusive in a social way. Diversity of beliefs, equality in gender, class, race. We want to have opportunities for everybody, every child in the school. We want to be inclusive. And we want to celebrate growth as success. Lots of mission statements talk about academic excellence. That's not enough. We want a school, the community has spoken, we want a school where children have the opportunity to be successful. And they should have the opportunity to be successful in a variety of different ways. Whether that be in the classroom, whether that be on the school, whether that be as part of their service, whether that be as part of their arts. We want them to have opportunities to be successful, and we want them to move from a position where they are here now and they get better, they grow. And that's what we want to define as success. Not just academic success, which only applies to a certain small number of children. Academic growth as success can apply to every child in the school. And that's what we are looking for. So you put that all together, and you put the mission team in a room for 2 days, with all this information, dragging out all these things, and you say to them, write a mission statement. And this is what they will do. We are a diverse and welcoming community in a joyful, learning environment that promotes well-being, sustainability, and inclusivity, and celebrates growth and success. And this is a mission which is, what's the word, Joe? What's the word that we keep using? Aspirational. Aspirational, because these words, these terms, are going to change the way that we do some things. When we talk about growth and success, that will automatically assess for us. We're going to look at our assessment policy. And we're going to think about what does that mean in terms of our assessment policy. If we talk about inclusivity, that's going to make us think, well, what about our missions? How are we going to do that? This is a statement which is intended to affect decision making at every level of the school. and it's purposefully short, so that people won't have to read it on the website, they won't have to read it on a wall, they'll know what it is, because we'll be able to go into every staff meeting and talk about, okay, we're doing this, how does that show that we're inclusive? How is that going to show, how is that showing that we are, that success is about growth? So this is our draft mission statement. And the process now, what do we do with this? We're going to roll it out to the community. You're the first, almost the first, to see it. But we need to roll it out to the community. We need to explain it to the community so that everyone understands why is it that we've used each of these terms, and what does it mean, and how's it going to affect the school going forward for the next 5 years. And so we're going to basically test drive it. And we're going to test drive it over the next couple of months, because what we want to do is we want to make sure that it resonates with the community. And so we're going to roll it out, we're going to use it, we're going to explain it, we're going to watch how it affects the things that we do on a day-to-day basis. We're going to get feedback from the community, and at the end of the day, probably maybe October, November, come up with a final version and we'll approve it. And then what happens? Well, what happens then? This mission statement, we will then develop supporting statements to give flesh to the bones. It's going to affect our strategy going forward. The next 5 years, strategically, what are we trying to do? That's going to then lead us to a strategic plan, which writes down very clearly, okay, here's what the strategy is. This is what it means going forward for the next 5 years. And from there, you come up with, this is me thinking, an operational plan. This is how we're going to do it. This is how we're going to get from here to here over the next 5 years. But it also means that we're going to look at branding, right? The school colours, the school uniform, the way that we write things. New uniform. Why do we do all this? Why do we have branding? Why do we have colours? Why do we try to have uniformity in the way that we do things? It gives us identity. It gives us identity. The school, with all the great things that go on here, needs an identity that is commonly understood so that everybody in the community understands who we are and what we're trying to do. And so this is a process that's eventually going to lead us to all our marketing and all our communication. And that's the plan. Right. That's the plan. So you're going to hear a lot about this, starting this week. Last thing. Yes. What's the capital levy going to do? Well, these are some of the projects that we want to do over the next few years. We're doing the IT infrastructure upgrade now, and it'll be finished by the end of the year, which will make a huge difference to the school. We've also, you will have seen, we've created new terraces on the sporting field so that we can have a decent place to sit. That's not finished yet. It's halfway there. We're trying to, we have lots of people who want facilities so that people can be outside and they can watch it comfortably. We're also talking about field lighting. Let's put lights on the big field. Then we can use it at night. And we can have, in the winter, we can have sporting events at night. We can also rent it out to outside people, to outside agencies, which will generate income for the school. But we're not using our field to their best possibilities. Staff quarter renovations. We've got a lot of land here, and what you don't know is out the back, we've got a lot of dilapidated buildings. We can renovate those. We can use them for purposes. We could use them for staff housing, save income for the school in terms of renting, or we could actually perhaps open up, a pre-kindergarten organisation, maybe, who knows? But we've got the bare bones there, and we can spend a reasonable small amount of money to actually develop those facilities. We've got the main school still, rehabilitation. The field needs to be looked after, and we need to put in an irrigation system so that we've got a good, decent field which doesn't go bone dry during the hot weather. And we've got the water. We just need the irrigation system. Dedicated reception classroom. We've got plans already to build a new reception classroom which will be dedicated to that age group and that age level. Something modern, something effective, something that is promoting good learning, and we even know where we're going to put it. Multi-purpose courts. We've got a tennis court. I don't know if you realise that. It's a basketball court. It's got asphalt and it's uneven and it's awful. What we'd like to do is put on a brand new surface, which could be used for tennis, which could be used for basketball, which could be used for netball, or multiple sports. With a decent surface that is not hard, it's safe and effective for the children to be able to use without hurting themselves. To do this, we have to fund it, right? And that capital levy is going to help us fund some of these projects. That's kind of the plan for the next few years. We've got other projects that we've already slated for the future. We don't have a timeline for those, but this is all part of the process. So that is it for me. Thank you. This is an exciting school. This is a great school. When I first came, I walked around the car park and I said to people, what do you think about the school? People would say, it's a good school. I said, well, what could the school do better? And they said, we want it to be a great school. Right? But I don't think people know exactly what that meant. Becoming a great school means planning, having a vision, and enacting that vision, which is what this is all about. Okay? Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
So what's the, I like to see you so enthusiastic about the mission and we can see it happening in the next 5 years. That's great. My question maybe it's premature because those sort of processes are not figured out. Like for example, translation of this sustainability mission to capital development. It's like renewable energy. I don't see it featuring anywhere. I'm just trying to find out from you, through which processes are you now going to make the translation? What's the involvement of the parent body in the transition? For example, with the processes, that's just one example. That may have to do with inclusivity or student safety, whatever. So I don't have that here. Ask like how is it just going to go to the board or is that?
No. See, if our mission is to be inclusive, and so we involve people, we're going to involve the community at various levels, but that's part of our mission, to include people, to be inclusive. It's not just inclusive for students, it's inclusive for everybody. And that's how missions make a difference. Because if we go embark upon a process of doing things and we don't include people, then we're not living up to our mission. So the mission is aspirational. It's going to change the way that we do things, or develop further the way that we do things. I do a lot of accreditation business with Council of International Schools. There are some schools that are really good, and some schools that are struggling. Okay? Good schools have certain characteristics in common. One of those characteristics is they're mission-driven schools. This is going to be a mission-driven school. Okay? And so when you look at that mission, you say, okay, I don't feel included. Okay, what's going on? Okay? Yes, you're here.
So I wanted to understand what's the difference between the athletic director and student coach and what are they going to change? Are they going to expand the swimming program?
I'm sorry, I can't get that.
Sorry.
Sorry.
So I wanted to understand what's the difference between the athletic director and the swimming coach in terms of what is the director going to do, what's going to change, and is the swimming program going to change at Bishop? And is it someone you're recruiting from outside or in-house?
Right. Okay. The difference between a swimming coach and an athletics director is, on one hand, nothing. It's a name. On one hand, it's nothing. But actually, in this case, it actually is different. Coaching the kids, for the galas is one thing. Developing the program for it to be the best that it can be is another thing altogether. The person that we've got coming in, and the swimming coach who came in October, who I'm extremely grateful for, worked really hard with the kids, and the swimming program here is really important. The person who's coming in is from overseas, has been an athletics director for the last 24 years. He's Greek Canadian. He has spent the last 24 years in the top international schools around the world. He used to swim on the Greek Olympic team. He lives and breathes water.
I hope not. You almost
So he's really excited to come, and he's really excited to come here and develop a program, and he's already talking lots of ideas about, he knows what we're doing now, and he's going to do it. Sorry? It's not just more lessons. It's not just more lessons. It's programs. Right? It's developing a program. It's not just about swimming more. It's about developing a program so that it's inclusive for everybody in the school.
I guess the part of the confusion comes is, I would assume BMIS has an athletic director, or they should have one if they don't. And now we have a position that represents itself, having a swimming coach, and then this great athletic director, aquatic director. But then what happens to the athletic director?
What happens to them?
We have a person who's supposed to be an athletic director.
Right, yeah. And once again, that's not the name of the person, but we have appointed internally for next year a sports coordinator whose responsibility is going to be all the competitions, in the school, outside the school, all those things that the school used to do, which is a huge job, and he's going to have time to focus and promote more competitive sport and more other sport with other schools. So we've got 3 levels on 3 different aspects. We've got the swimming program, we've got the sports program, and we've got physical education program, which is sort of the curriculum. And all of those three things are vital for the school, and those three positions are going to be coordinated with one.
Is who going to be heated to make sure that the aquatics directors will be functional throughout the year? With solar energy, for example.
Well, solar paneling is actually one of the things that is on that projects list, and would it be good to extend the swimming season by making it full swim?
So I'll let you know and I'll make a comment.
Yeah, you sent an email earlier on about the services.
Statistics were great with the 86% going to universities. I'm just wondering, can you share any information on what universities they're going to? Maybe not just for last year, but even for previous years, so we can see these are the typical schools graduates usually go to.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's actually very important. Okay, thank you.